Thank you, Amidu, for that background there. And we have guests already seated for the conversation in the studio. First, let me introduce in the studio Dr. Isaac Abuja, a public health specialist. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Also here in the studio with us is Mr. Chuks Akamadu, president of the Center for Ethical Rebirth among Nigerian youths. You are welcome.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, good morning.
We also have joining us via Zoom from Lagos. We have Professor Mojisola Ade, Director General NAFDAC. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. We also have joining us via Zoom an Associate Professor, Dr. Aisha Tuyushau Armiao, Medical Director and Chief Executive Officer, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Kaduna. You're welcome to Good Morning, Nigeria. Okay, the DG of NAFDAC is actually not in Lagos, but she's joining us via Zoom.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Right. So let's kick start. Let's start our conversation with the DG of NAFDAC. DGs, please, can you explain to us the reason behind NAFDAC's decision to ban alcoholic beverages in sachets and PET bottles?
Thank you so much for having me again. The reason for banning sachet alcohol and alcohol in PET bottles less than 200 mils is because of our children. It is because of our youth. And please let everybody know that we are not banning alcohol. We are banning alcohol that can be easily reached by our children. The sachet alcohol can be slipped into the pocket of elementary school children. And when we talk of the future, our children are our future. If we have children that have started drinking alcohol in primary school, the likelihood of using drugs is high. Therefore, it is all about our children. And this started 2018. This ban was supposed to be 2018, early 2019. And the Distillery Association and the Alcoholic Beverage Association went to the Minister of Health at that point because we were going to stop registration. And they complained that it will disturb their business. We came to a conclusion together and they signed an agreement that we will give them a 5-year moratorium so that they can rearrange their business plan. 5-year moratorium ended January 31, 2024. This was not done unilaterally, this ban. It was done with the Ministry of Health, with the consumer protection groups. Therefore, the ban is all about our children. When children drink alcohol early, their liver will start getting hardened, cirrhosis, and it can lead to cancer. What do we want in Nigeria? Do we want a generation that are alcoholics, that will be potential drug abusers? And it's not just children going to school. It is the Okada riders, the small businesses, small businessmen and women around that can easily access sachet alcohol or less than 200 ml PET bottles. That was the reason why Minister of Health and us at that point gave that 5-year moratorium, because we were thinking of the economic problems that could arise. 5-year moratorium is enough. One child that is lost, one family that is dysfunctional or becomes dysfunctional because of a child or a young person that is an alcoholic is too many in this country. That is the reason. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'm still going to stay with you for a follow-up question. You know, there was a global strategy to reduce the harmful use of alcohol agreed by the WHO member states, of which Nigeria is a signatory, in 2010. And what were these strategies and recommended targeted areas? Is this one of these policies, and why did it take so long for Nigeria to key into this global initiative?
Actually, I was surprised when I joined NAFDAC in 2017. I didn't even know what sachet alcohol is until I went somewhere and I thought it is a breakfast bar. I just picked it up and they said, no, that is sachet alcohol. I don't know why it took us this long, but this sachet alcohol that we're talking about has 30%. Beer has 6 to 8% alcoholic content. Sachet alcohol has 30%. And I told myself, I said, what are we doing as a country? 30% alcohol? Are we not thinking? For children, if an adult wants to drink alcohol and drink responsibly, that's fine, no problem. But for children, we cannot wage the future of this country on the back of the so-called economy. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, DG, for giving us an explanation there. We will come back to you later, but let's come back to the studio where we still have our guests. Let me start with Dr. Abuja. You just heard the DG said even she didn't know about the sachet alcohol before now. And earlier on when we were talking behind the camera, you also, concord to that you have not actually, seen the sachet alcohol. Now, let's look at the health implication of all this. What is your thought?
Well, let me start by congratulating NAFDAC. What they have done is excellent. It is in the interest of our country, especially young people, and generally everybody. Alcohol, by nature, is regarded as a beverage, but it is also a drug, and it can be a poison. The reason why I congratulate NAFDAC heartily is because putting alcohol in a sachet makes it very easy to be carried around. When it is in a bottle or in a big container, you cannot conceal it. But when you put it in a sachet, it is very easy to carry it around in the pocket, in your car, in every place. Secondly, there are many fake things being manufactured or produced in the country. And to have alcohol in a sachet, that's the easiest way of producing alcohol in a concealed manner. And by the way, there are 3 types of alcohol that are in circulation. We have ethanol, methanol, isopropyl alcohol. The one that is common is ethanol. There is what we call methanol, that is very poisonous, that is also circulating around. If you go to the villages, what they call kai kai or gogoro, or local whiskey or brandy, is methanol more than ethanol, and it's terribly dangerous. It is poisonous. It can make somebody blind. It can do a lot of things. But generally, health-wise, alcohol is not recommended in more than a small quantity for the type of alcohol that we might call wine. Why? Because alcohol causes a lot of health problems. It is responsible for high blood pressure. It is responsible for heart problems. It is responsible for digestive problems. In fact, it is responsible for stroke. It is responsible for depressed or reduced immunity. It is responsible for general frailness or lack of health. in individuals. If you notice those who drink alcohol frequently, they never look healthy. They always look haggard, they always look frail, they always look... something is wrong with them. If you look at their skin, it doesn't radiate. And if you look at their tongue, very pale. Now, when you look at alcohol, from the point of ingestion, which is the mouth, to the point of excretion, which is the rectum, alcohol causes problem all along. It can cause cancer of the mouth, cancer of the esophagus, cancer of the voice box, cancer of the colon, and cancer of the rectum itself. But more importantly, the liver is the organ that digests or breaks down most of what we eat. And when alcohol goes to the liver, it does a lot of damage to the liver, up to the point of causing cirrhosis of the liver, cancer of the liver. And there are many other problems that are associated with alcohol. Now, today, among the elderly, there's hardly any elderly person that is not taking one type of drug or another.
Okay.
And alcohol is counter-indicated, meaning you cannot take alcohol and take certain drugs, generally. So when you are on medication and you don't know, and you take alcohol, you have caused yourself harm. The reaction between alcohol and the drug that you are taking can even kill you, rather than the disease for which you are trying to take treatment. So for many health reasons, alcohol is not supposed to be really considered a beverage.
Okay.
For me, it is a drug, and in some ways, a poison.
Dr. Abuja, thank you for stating out these facts, and it's quite educating and enlightening for those who take this alcohol. Now let's bring in Mr. Chuks Akamadu. He's the president of the Center for Ethical Rebirth and among Nigerian youths. You know, alcohol, misuse of alcohol has a rippling effect, especially on the society itself. And the WHO says it's from 15. That is their statistic of adults who take from 15 and above. And it's all unimaginable for you to imagine that a 15-year-old will be taking alcohol and it's easily accessible.
Well, if you leave it at 15, then it means the society would be less unsafe. The situation on ground is worse than that because younger people, much younger than 15, do alcohol. In fact, they do drugs worse than alcohol. I think what NAFDAC has done is the ban is commendable. It's commendable to the extent that this ban would further push the conversation around how to procure elite consensus and mass action as regards the imperative of stemming the tide of drug abuse in the society. So it's commendable in that regard. But I like the spirit behind the ban, but I'm a little worried because it does look like it targets the poor. I would have been a lot more comfortable if NAFDAC had come up with an initiative that seeks to embrace everybody, a more inclusive policy, a more inclusive ban that will be applicable across board. Because if you look at the sachet, if you look at the sachet alcohol and the PET bottles, I mean, the people, the producers designed that for marketing purposes, and their target market was the poor, those whose purchasing power is low. If that be the case, how about those who have the capacity to purchase very costly drinks and, of course, abuse that in the comfort of their home, and of course their children will also have access to all of that. So looking at it from that angle, I think that, like I said, I like the spirit behind the ban, but I think NAFDAC should go rethink it. NAFDAC should go rethink it. And again, I also think that NAFDAC should ask itself a question. When NAFDAC entered into a 5-year moratorium with the distillers and said, okay, after 5 years, you will no longer do this business. What was NAFDAC thinking? Okay, that these people said, oh, we will now quit business. It is inconceivable that these people just walked away from a presumably lucrative business. It was 5 years. It was good enough for them to re-strategize on how to survive, how to ensure that their businesses survive afterwards. Because this possibly cannot achieve the purpose for which the ban is set out to achieve. That's why I think that some more thought should go into it. Because, and you know, when you now say you've banned this thing, the market is there. That's the unfortunate thing. The market is there. Because the market is there, it's very unlikely that the producers will just close shop and go home. No, there is no business person that would do that. I imagine that they would have gone to re-strategize on how to survive and then make more money at the point that it is now officially banned. And then talking about ban again, one would also ask some questions. Does NAFDAC have the requisite personnel to enforce this ban? How willing are our security agencies? How willing are they to cooperate with NAFDAC to enforce this ban? And if we really want this thing to work, I think we should be looking in the angle of legislation. Legislation so that we'll have a clearly spelled out penalty for any breach of that law. If we have a legislation that says, okay, this is now a crime. If it is a crime, of course, there will be a corresponding punishment for commission of that crime. So for me, yes, like I said, it helps us ventilate our concerns concerning the scourge of drug abuse in the society. Also helps us to express concern concerning preservation of the lives of younger people and all of that. I love what Lagos State did. For me, it's more like it that, oh, you see, all of these alcoholic products, don't bring them to motor parks. For me, it makes a whole lot of sense because what you have done is to say, okay, let our focus in this regard be road safety. Because if you make it available, if you make it handy that every Dick and Harry around the motor park can just grab a view of the sachet and all of that and hit the road, you will be endangering the lives of people. So when we come up with these policies and programs, we expect that going forward that our agencies, our ministries, our policy, those who implement policies and all of that will take their time and do a lot more thorough, exhaustive job before they come up with this kind of a thing.
Thank you very much, Akamadu. There, you have raised a lot of issues which I want the DG of NAFDAC to respond to. The DG of NAFDAC is in Lagos, and I want you to respond to the issues that Akamadu just raised, and one of which is the issue of enforcement, which is very important. If you are going to, if you say that you are banning, are you in any way collaborating with other law enforcement agencies to ensure that this thing is enforced? And also the issue of legislation as well. What are you doing about that?
By the C-34 bill to make sure that we don't have unwholesome food, don't have substandard falsified medicines on our streets. We have the enforcement. Then NAFDAC is headquarters of the Federal Task Force is in NAFDAC. The headquarters of the Federal Task Force is in NAFDAC. We do not work alone. We work with the police. We work with the army. We work with DSS. We work with Interpol. Is it going to be easy? It's not going to be easy, but we have enforcement backing. Why? Because of our children. Nothing else. it is because of our children and the agony of the consequences of alcohol being sold or being easily accessible to underage children. Kenya, Tanzania, Botswana, or Zimbabwe, they've all banned sachet alcohol, responding to that 2010 agreement with WHO. Why did it take us this long? We can all know why, but it is high time we stopped death on the road. It's high time we stop future of cancer of the liver. It's high time we start breeding workforce. If you have an alcoholic person working, that person can never be as productive. All these things tie together with the health consequences that my colleague has very well listed. I think it's high time, and we have already done it. In terms of legislature, it is the same legislation that we are banking on. The C-34 bill gives us the power to enforce, and this is about health. The Minister of Health in 2018 made this with us, the 5-year moratorium. The coordinating ministers of health today supported this ban because they know, they are doctors, they know the consequences. So we have the enforcement. We will continue to do our job as a regulatory agency. As a parent, I cannot imagine a 10-year-old having drinking problem. It is almost like that family is already lost that child, has already lost that child, when a 10-year-old can have access, easy access to alcohol. So we have the enforcement, and it is about health. The minister, it's an executive thing, issue, actually. And I'm hoping that our National Assembly, Senate, and House will talk together and make sure that we are protecting the lives of our children, or protecting the future of Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, DG, just one more. I just want to ask this question, DG. Before the ban, because there is need for sensitization and awareness, were you able to do that? Because it is very important. You are banning something, and people don't know the reason why you are going to, you are banning it. You are asking me to stop drinking this, but we have not seen enough sensitization or awareness on the path of NAFDAC, or whether you are collaborating with other organizations like Akamadu here, to actually sensitize, especially the youth, on the dangers of this.
Thank you very much. We think of the community, not just regulation. We, just before the pandemic, we started going around secondary schools, telling them, making them to be aware of the danger of abusing drug, alcohol. So we work with the community. We go to secondary schools even up till now. But we cannot do too much of sensitization. We will continue to do sensitization. We have NAFDAC and Your Health on NTA, on TVC every week to sensitize our people. But let us know that there is a source for this alcohol. We did not just decide 5 years ago. We also gave the manufacturers gradual withdrawing, time to gradually withdraw. the production. When we started the enforcement last week, we were shocked to see machines still running, and stacks of sachet alcohol in different warehouses. We gave them, for example, we gave them even, okay, we will give you 1 year license during this period that we end January 31, 2024. So it was not like we turned our backs to the manufacturers or to the community. No. The manufacturers know it was a gradual down-tooling, or whatever we want to call it, of manufacturing alcohol in containers that children can easily reach. So the manufacturers were well aware over 5 years, and it was a gradual withdrawal that we expected them to do. Over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Ade, there for your insight into the policy and how effective we hope it will get. Let's now bring in Dr. Aisha Tuyushau into the conversation. She's Medical Director, Chief Executive Officer, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Kaduna. Yes, we sort of cannot underestimate the ripple effects of young children taking alcohol and other substances. I'm sure you have a lot of experience. You've seen a lot at the neuropsychiatric hospital. Can you tell us how hard it is to look at these young children when they are brought in and just begin to imagine how the society went wrong in bringing up these children?
Thank you very much to NAFDAC for this bold step in banning the use of sachet alcohol. Well, alcoholic beverages are drinks which are produced from fruits and grains, and the content of the alcohol is the ethanol. Sometimes we have the methanol, and we have a limit to what an individual can drink. And when it goes beyond that limit, then it becomes a major problem. Unfortunately, this sachet beverages, or let me say this alcoholic beverages in sachet, they do not go by regulations, I guess, because you find 30%, 50% alcohol in this sachet drinks. And they are really detrimental to the brains of our children, especially the growing child. In a process when a 7-year-old is brought to you with alcohol use disorder, then it is devastating. And a substance use disorder, specifically in this case, alcohol, is a family problem because it affects every single family and it affects every member of the family. So therefore, when a social problem, or let me say a social thing, becomes a public health problem, then there must be a guideline to regulate what that thing is causing. Because the amount of youths we have in the hospital at the moment, I have about 60 patients, either in the rehabilitation center or in the toxicology unit. And these are growing children, but the alcohol has devastated their brain because it causes mental and behavioral problems, apart from the physical problem that Dr. Isaac mentioned earlier, because it affects every single system of the body, from the brain to the muscle. It affects every single system. And in the mental health sphere, it causes a lot of problems. You see aggression, you see violence, you see a lot of behavioral problems. Sleep problems, appetite problems. They don't eat because they are abusing alcohol. So they don't eat, and therefore their immunity is low. They come down with pneumonia, even while on admission. Some of them sneak the substances because they are so small that anybody can just walk in and bring it to them. So we are very vigilant in the hospital. We are very vigilant, and we have to even have extra precaution on even the visitors that come, because sachet beverages, sachet alcohol are very small. So they could be put in the pocket and they slip into the wards. But fortunately here, we are able to apprehend, or let me say, catch them as they are coming, and we collect them and we take them out. So the public might not understand the implication or the consequences of this unless they have the chance to come in and see the devastating effect of the subsequent years of these patients. For example, some of the patients we have here who are youths that come into the hospital, we even have to disarm them, because in the context of seeing them, you find out that they even have weapons on them. And those weapons could be used on another individual outside, even us here. It could be detrimental to us here. And all these things are caused by the use of alcohol. So therefore, I believe that this step the NAFDAC is taking on banning this sachet alcohol is one of the greatest moves, even though it's coming now. It has happened in other countries way back, and we've been following up on that. And I think now is the time for all stakeholders to come together and understand the way of NAFDAC. They are not restricting the use of alcohol, no. Specifically is alcoholic beverages in sachet. We have a limit. For instance, 14 units per week is what is expected of a male or a female to use in a week, which is like 6 pints of beer, 14 single measure of whiskey, or 6 glasses of wine in a week. But in a situation where you find a person sitting down to drink 10 bottles of alcohol, then you know there's a problem. And in this context, we are talking about children. It affects children, and they are the ones that are very, very vulnerable, especially from the primary school. Now, it's not even the secondary school now, from the primary school. So you can imagine the effect it will cause physically on that individual in his lifetime, in all the organs of his body, the heart, hypertension, cardiomyopathies happen in the oral cavity. We have the esophageal cancer, we have the oral cavity cancer. In the liver, we have cirrhosis, we have fatty livers, we have fibrosis, we have liver cancer. In the GIT, we have colorectal cancer, we have gastric ulcerations. In the neurological area, that's the brain, you can have hemorrhagic or ischemic stroke. In the lungs, you can have pneumonia due to reduced immunity. You can have acute respiratory distress syndrome, which can shut down the respiratory tract completely and the person dies. In the muscle of the person can waste, or they have myopathy. The pancreas can be affected, where you have acute pancreatitis or pancreatic cancer or chronic pancreatitis. In the bones, you can have reduced bone density. So it affects everywhere, including the brain. So for me, I think if more advocacy is required, we can bring in more advocacy. But for now, we stand on that ground of banning alcoholic sachet drinks. Thank you very much.
I have a follow-up question for you. What is the background of these children that are brought into your hospitals? What do the parents tell you? Because experts have said this is an epidemic on the young generation. These children will grow up to be thugs during political rallies, during, kidnappers and all that, because the brain is, completely damaged. What did the parents tell you, and how did it begin?
All right. Alcohol disorder cuts across all gender, all religion, all socioeconomic class. It doesn't choose any. So we see children from the high social class, we see them from the middle social class, and we see them from the lower social class. And one of the fundamental things we see is the initial denial by some of these parents. When they tell them about this, they deny until the child is very bad, in the sense that the illness has come very, very clear, and they notice behavioral problems which are detrimental to the family. They keep it low, they hide it, they don't want anybody to know. But by the time the child becomes very aggressive, especially, because that is one reason why we see some of the parents bringing their children, aggression. The child becomes aggressive to the father, to the mother, to the siblings, and to the school authority. Other times, the school authority might have reported one or two of this to the parents, and the parents might not have listened at that time until it happens in the house setting. Then the parents now begin to find how they get to the hospital. Before they get to neuropsychiatric hospital, they must have gone to several places because of the stigma attached to bringing people to the neuropsychiatric hospitals. So they go shopping for help before finally they come here. And by the time we see these children, it has affected their brain, and we would have to first of all detoxify these children before we can even engage them, because some of them do not even understand what is going on. So you have to bring them back to reality before you sit and engage them on the next step. And we usually bring them into the treatment to agree to go for the treatment, so that they are part and parcel of the treatment and they are responsible for their treatments, rather than just forcing them in. We take them in from the beginning because they don't have the insight to understand what's happening. So because of their health and the danger of the substance already in their system, we take them on to bring them back to reality. Then we engage them and let them understand the consequences of what they do. Some of them have already had series of accidents, series of fights. They've been in the police custody. Some have even gone to the prison and are out of the prisons. So they've already gone through a lot. And the parents might have kept it for a while, but now it is obvious that they need help. So we engage the family in the therapy so that they understand the need for that child to be well. But at certain points, when these children are getting better, rather than allowing them to continue with the treatment, the parents take them out, believing they are cured. But unfortunately, it's a brain disorder because it's already a dependence illness. The brain is already addicted or dependent on that substance. So it takes time for the brain to understand that I am taking out this from my system. So this is what we go through, but we are advocating. We have morning sessions, we have sessions with the families, we have sessions with the patients, we have sessions with the community, and we engage schools now. We have school programs where the staff of the hospital go to the schools to engage the children from the school, from the primary school level. Initially, it was thought that when you talk to children about substance abuse, you are exposing them to go and do that. But no, prevention for me, it's better than cure. When you introduce mental health into the school curriculum at the basic school level, it will give these children the chance to understand the danger of that. And therefore, some of them tend to go away from that, because when you engage them, they will tell you it is dangerous, it causes this and that. And some of the schools send their children to the hospital to come, and we engage them in the conference halls by talking to them about the dangers of substance abuse. And for some of our patients who have been treated and have gone out of the hospital, we invite them to come as role models to speak to them, because they've gone through it. So they speak to them so that they are able to understand, because this person talking to you had experienced it. I might not have experienced it because I read and I have seen. I have not taken. But those that have taken would have a better experience to explain to these children why they shouldn't start from the beginning. So we have volunteers in the hospital in our team when we go out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aishatu, for giving us a clear picture of the consequences of these sachet alcohol and alcohol in general, the consequences of taking alcohol and the excesses of it. And also, because I was going to ask you that what strategies would you, prefer to better educate the public? And you mentioned, you have already mentioned one of them, which is introducing mental health into the curriculum of schools. But let me come back to the studio here where we have Akamadu, because you deal with the youth and your center deal with the youth and the issue. That let me ask you again, what better strategies do you think that NAFDAC and all these other agencies can employ, to better educate the public on the consequences of this alcohol generally? And also, I want to ask another question. Can the ban on alcoholic drinks in sachet and PET bottles be considered a stepping stone towards broader alcohol control in the country?
Well, I'll start from the second. My answer is simply yes.
Okay.
A good step in the right direction.
Okay.
Like I said, it just has to be given a rethink and modalities for implementation reviewed with a view to achieving optimal outcomes. You see, I like what the last speaker said. She was saying something about sensitization. You see, I was going to also ask the NAFDAC DG, if you had listened to her from beginning to end, her emphasis was on supply control. And earlier, I had mentioned that, what do you do when the market is there?
Yeah.
If the market is there for something, I tell you, somehow producers will find a way of getting that product across to that market. That's very, very important. I liked what the last speaker said. She was talking about sensitization and all of that. If we can catch these young people, if we can catch them young, now they're in the impressionable stage and all of that, let them know so that in their individual enlightened interest, they will be the one that will say, no, this thing is not good for me. That way, we would have been controlling the supply, because supply will naturally die down. That's one area I think that NAFDAC should begin to spare a thought for. And then when it comes to sensitization, advocacy, awareness creation, and all of that, I would want to note, you see, NAFDAC, I don't think that NAFDAC is suitable for such. They need to liaise with other critical stakeholders within the alcohol abuse space. If NAFDAC walks into a secondary school and the average student sports NAFDAC or NAFDAC logo, NAFDAC is like NDLA. In the mind's eye of a young person, NAFDAC is like NDLA. It's like EFCC. These people enforce laws. Whatever, you will just be talking at them. You won't be talking with them. They will log out. You won't have that useful interaction. You wouldn't have that feedback. They will just lock up, go inside. When you're done talking at them, you take a walk. You wouldn't have achieved anything at all. Yeah. That is why when it comes to sensitization, if what we really have at the back of our minds is result, positive result, optimal outcomes, then agencies like NAFDAC, agencies like NDLA, we've said this severally elsewhere, Kaduna Neuropsychiatric Hospital, all these government agencies, all these government institutions that are primarily charged with issues such as this should find a way of penetrating the churches, the mosques, NGOs, the press, the media. They are better placed to talk to these people because they are better placed to relate with these young people, because their presence does not judge the students, but the presence of the average regulator or law enforcement agent makes them feel judged in the first place. So they are not likely to open up. You won't even know where the thing is pinching them, whether it's because of even parental influence and all of that. They will just lock up. But if it comes from the church, from the mosque, community, traditional institutions, and all of that, they might just be open to. They will now be encouraged to open up to you and say, it's because daddy sends me to buy 3. So what I used to do is that I now keep 1 for myself. Or when daddy is done with 1, 2, if he forgets the 3rd one, then I'll go and taste it. So this is one area I think that government should pay attention to. Then please, since we are here already, I would want to say this. I very much appreciate the effort of NAFDAC, what they're doing wonderfully well. Other sister agencies doing wonderfully well in a bid to ensure that our youth, the health of our youth is preserved. Very, very important, because the future really belongs to them. But there is even a more worrying situation that we've got on our hands, which I think is an emergency, a national emergency. Sir, as far back as 2004, when Dora Kunin was DG, I had occasion to go to Aba, Osisioma to be precise, on a survey. I walked into a shop at Osisioma, yes, and I said I wanted to buy a bottle of Remy Martins. And I was given 3 different bottles of Remy Martins. And I asked how much. They said this one is 17,000. This one is 12,500. This other one is 4,000.
Why the differential in
God
prices?
bless you. Thickest.
They are adulterated.
Now today, it's worse, because as I speak with you, you are now talking about banning of sachet alcohol, PET bottles, and all of that. As we speak now, go out there and ask. More than 60-70% of beer in circulation in this country, they are adulterated. They are fake products. And they are more injurious to the health of the consumer. How they find themselves into the market, that's why the average man in this Abuja that can afford it will tell you, I know they drink for garden again. Oh, that club, no, I cannot again. I'd rather go to Transcorp and take a bottle of beer, because it's about Transcorp and similar high-profile hotels that you can fairly guarantee the genuineness of what you're, whether it's whether that product is genuine or is fake. Is that bad? And of course, they are medics. They are in a better position to know what I'm saying. It's a lot more injurious to the society. So, what is government doing regarding this area? Because the alcohol, even the sachet alcohol, I was expecting them to talk about it. Nobody is sure that even what they are selling is according to what they presented to NAFDAC before it was allowed to go into the market at all. Because they abuse all of this. They just push out anything to the market and all of that. So, apart from alcohol itself, the fact that they now adulterate it, the fact that they are contaminated and they are freely being taken. As we speak, across the country, these products are everywhere for public consumption.
Okay, Akamadu, thank you very much. You have raised a lot of issues, and but we'll come back to those issues to discuss them. It's time for us to take another break. Stay with us.
You're welcome back, and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we still have our guests seated here in the studio. They've raised a lot of pertinent questions, and we would like some of our guests to respond to them. Let me bring in Dr. Isaac Abuja into the conversation, a public health specialist. And they say a healthy nation is a productive nation. And then we look at this issue of alcohol consumption that sort of, it's creeping in like a snail, but it's eating it up. It's eating up in the society, and people are just watching. Is it because of the stigma? Is it because they are afraid? And with this ban now, every illegal business has a cabal Do you think the cabal will hit back?
Certainly. Let me start with the effect that alcohol and other things that are bad, like drugs, have on the country. The CMD of the neurological hospital in Kaduna has eloquently explained many of them, so I won't repeat them.
Yes.
But the productivity alone, academic productivity, physical productivity, economic productivity, any sector you can think of, when you have people who are supposed to be the producers or the actors not being able to deliver, that's the beginning of problem. And when you have young people who are supposed to be trained, who are supposed to be equipped intellectually, socially, morally, and so on, to be the actors in the future, now being unable to live a normal life, then what do you expect? There's no future. Then health-wise, the amount of money that is spent on a patient generally, when you think about it from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, in your family, individual families, for malaria, for pneumonia, for minor injuries, for this, for that, we never think of those, but we should. When you add up all the money, multiply by the number of people in your family, you think, and then you compare it to the amount of income that you have, you know that you are taking a lot of attention and a good chunk of your money and putting it into where it shouldn't have gone in the first place. So we need to do something about that. Coming to the solutions that we should provide, I would like to talk about this because it's very key.
Yes.
The last speaker has already mentioned one or some. Let me add more. I'm very glad that the CMD of the neurological hospital in Kaduna mentioned the fact that they are doing outreach.
Right.
Very key. If you have patients coming in from a particular community, and there are many, and it's continuous, you should worry. You should have social workers in that hospital trying to go there to find out why is it that from this particular community we're having so many people coming in for this particular problem. And health education, sensitization, social mobilization are the key approaches that we should use to solve these problems. Yes, legislation is good, banning is excellent, but they won't solve all the problems. I will recommend now two things. One, in our health facilities, especially the government health facilities, let them include these issues in their health education. Even to pregnant women who every time they go for antenatal care, they are giving health education. Let the health workers include some of these issues as part of their health education. It will go a long way. Because these patients come from different communities and they don't come necessarily because of this problem. A pregnant woman comes because she's pregnant and she wants to be checked. But if you are talking about the effect of alcohol on her fetus, on her baby, inside her stomach, to the point of a child that is about 10 years old, 15 years old, 18 years, 20 years old, she will begin to understand that if she, for example, takes alcohol, it's going to have effect on that child from the time that it is still inside her womb to the time that the child comes out. The child becomes a school-age people and a university graduate and so on. So she can see the trend. And if there are people drinking alcohol in her family, she can go home now and talk to them and talk about it. Now, I would also recommend to the Nigerian Institute for Medical Research to take note of this. We've heard what the CMD of the psychiatric hospital just said. If I were the CEO of the Nigerian Institute for Medical Research, I would want now to find out how many hospitals are treating these cases. How many of them do we have? And I'll put them into strata. Now, the banning just started this year, January last month. After 1 year, January next year, I'd want to do the same thing again and compare.
Okay.
What was the situation before the ban? What was the situation a year after the ban? What is the situation 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years after the ban? It is those kind of information and data that you use to convince people, policymakers, victims, or ordinary people in the community, whoever you can think of, that there's an action and an effect on a particular issue. In this case, alcohol. And let me repeat something. What is even more worrisome to me is the fact that, I think Mr. mentioned, especially the last speaker has mentioned it, there's adulteration of nearly everything we're consuming in our community right now. And you think of alcohol in particular. Now, I mentioned before that the commonest alcohol we're consuming is ethanol. But when you have methanol, which is terrible, it is a danger devil. Being manufactured and packaged in a sachet and given to a child, it is not only killing the organs, it is damaging the brain is also an organ. It is damaging the brain, and that child can never have a good future. He can't, or she can't.
Even after rehabilitation?
Well, when you say rehabilitation, it is only a repair. When you repair something, the damage is already done to some extent. You are only trying to manage from where you met it. And I'm very glad that the CMD of the psychiatric hospital in Kaduna said it. And the reason why I'm emphasizing on this is because sometimes we think because somebody has been rehabilitated, the person is okay. But what about the danger? The destruction, the damages that have been done to that level? Like I mentioned before, and she mentioned it too, when somebody is an alcoholic, they don't eat well. They lose a lot of vitamins that are necessary for their growth, for every part of the body. But more importantly, growing people, young children that are still growing, their organs are developing. When you have absence of all these things, what do you expect? And even for adults, there are many of them who don't eat well again because they're drinking alcohol. If somebody is very used to drinking alcohol, early in the morning they are craving for it.
Okay.
In the afternoon they are craving for it. Okay. At night they are craving for it. But now also, let's add this to the social problems that we have in the country. Banditry, kidnapping, violence of all kinds. Okay. Alcohol is one of the causes.
Thank you very much.
Like I said before, alcohol is a drug.
It's a drug.
And should be treated as such.
Alcohol is a drug and should be treated as such. Thank you so much, Dr. Abuja, for giving us more insight into the consequences there. Now, let's bring in the DG of NAFDAC now to react to some of the issues that have been raised, especially the issue of the adulterated beverages, that is the alcohol. And also, when you ban a product and there is no substitute or a better alternative, there is a tendency that it will create a kind of a black market, where people will begin to smuggle that product into the market and to the users as well. So what measures are being taken by NAFDAC to ensure that that the ban does not lead to the emergence of unregulated black market concerning this product?
Thank you so much. That is why what we do in NAFDAC is 24/7. Market surveillance is huge in our regulatory activity. So the fact that we have banned it doesn't mean we are folding our arms. As we speak, we have our officers still going to companies to make sure that the production has stopped and to evacuate whatever they have in their store. There are some of the warehouses that the amount is so huge that we have to arrange private destruction. Private destruction because our own warehouse cannot even contain it. So the enforcement is there. But in terms of the market, about a month or 6 weeks ago, we were at Aba, and we went over 240 shops. For those that are faking wines, beverages, or other beverages, So our job is 24/7. That is one of the reasons why we need a lot of staff. A lot of staff. We're so understaffed that, and I've said it at the National Assembly, we are burning candles at both ends. But market surveillance, huge. And also investigation. We do mystery shopping to make sure that the ones that are going under, we can track them and, arrest, or we do arrest, we prosecute. So we have our market surveillance. That is just the simple answer to that. And it's continuous. Our job is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Thank you.
I'm still going to stay with you. In our intro, we talked about the pushback that has started with Trade Union Congress, that the UTUC, Food, Beverage and Tobacco Senior Staff Association, FOTAP, and National Union of Food, Beverages and Tobacco Employees complaining that there will be loss of jobs of more than 500 people. You are understaffed. Lots of jobs of more than 500 people. And we all know that during a prohibition, usually there's a backdoor that this business continues. What are you going to do about that?
That was why we have this 5-year moratorium. We are business friendly. I'm very business friendly. And everything we do is to ensure that local manufacturing of our regulated products fosters. So the 5-year moratorium, we believe, is enough. The Ministry of Health believes that is enough for people to know that the time is come for us to start thinking of our children.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it was 500 jobs out there, and 500,000 jobs that will be lost because of this ban on alcohol and beverages. Let's now come back here to the studio. Mr. Akamadu.
Or better still,
you want to follow up? Okay.
Yes, no, I just want to ask Dr. Aisha to now in Kaduna, because of this protest by the Association of Beverages, do you think their protest is that legitimate, going by the consequences and the impact of this alcohol on the health of the people?
Well, in this arena of substance use, specifically this sachet alcohol, specifically the ban on it, I think normally, when people understand the consequences of this drug, and they also have children and a family, I do not think, from my own point of view, that there is even supposed to be any protest in this regard, especially in this context, because this thing they are producing and selling, I don't know whether they use it themselves or they have ever given their children to use and to understand what happens in later life. This ban on alcoholic beverages is a national issue, and it's for all Nigerians. Nigerians are the stakeholders in this ban. And it is the responsibility of every Nigerian to ensure that this ban plays and support NAFDAC in this fight. Because it is our youth who we are looking forward to be productive in all spheres of life, so as to push the society to where it is supposed to be. If this number of youths are wasted because of this alcoholic drinks, which their limits are beyond a reasonable mind thinking. For instance, you have 30 to 50% of alcohol or either ethanol or methanol inside a sachet, and you give a human being to take. So how do you think the country or the nation would be in the next 10 or 20 years. It will be a country where the production level will be almost zero because the bulk of the youths have wasted. We have a very young generation of youths in the country. Our youths are more than us. If you look at the statistics, you see that the youths less than 40 years are about 60%. Now, take it to 20 years or 10 years and see the amount of waste we will have. So I think even that association needs to have advocacy. We need to go to them and sit with them and make them understand, maybe and bring them out of where they are to bring them to where these children are as patients to see the waste we have on these children because of what they produce. Maybe they will understand that, yes, this ban stands and they should also join in the fight and better still take their mind to produce something that will be beneficial to the society and to the nation at large.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aishatu, for giving us a clear picture of the whole issue there. We want to thank you very much, Dr. Aishatu Yushau Amiyu, Medical Director, Chief Executive Officer, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Kaduna. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Before we go, I just in 1 minute, because I know that you deal with the youth especially, and we know that in our show business these days, most of the youths are involved in this, these beverages, this alcohol, this, they take all these things. What advice do you have? Because it's so important, because the youth see this showbiz, these so-called, as their role model. So what do we do?
Simply, Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation and National Film and Video Censors National Film and Video Censors Board, yes, should be alive to their responsibilities. Okay. They should find a way of cutting down on that content that seems to promote alcoholism, promote drug abuse, and all of that, so that our youth can be spared the havoc that stares all of us in the face.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Chuks Akamadu is the president, the Center for Ethical Rebirth among Nigerian youth. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Always. And also, I want to thank Dr. Isaac Abuja, public health specialist. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
My pleasure.
Also, want to thank from Lagos there, the DG of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Next is sports. Super Eagles victory. Let's have it.
Nigeria's Super Eagles on Wednesday at the Stade de la Paix in Bouake defeated 10-man South Africa in a penalty shootout to qualify for the AFCON 2023 final, billed for Sunday, February 11th. The Super Eagles deservedly took the lead on 66 minutes as William Troost Ekong scored from the penalty spot for a foul on Osimhen. With 5 minutes left, Osimhen thought he had doubled the lead for the Eagles, but after a VAR check, it was disallowed and the penalty awarded to South Africa. Teboho Mokoena converted the spot kick on 90 minutes to make it 1-1. South Africa had a player sent off late in the second half of extra time for a foul on Terry Murphy. After both teams had failed to find the winner, the game went on into penalties, with Umabali making 2 saves as the Eagles won 4-2.
For Nigeria and Leicester City's Foxes.